part of the Fired Up Sports network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
You're listening to Drunk on Broad, Philly Sports Unfiltered! From Broad Street down to the bank, we bleed red, green, black, blue, and gray. Racial classes, game day pride, Philly's hardware, drunk on the ride. The Elliott flying on at night, Six Stars lights up, the sky's so bright. Flyers crash like thunder on the ice, Philly swinging, everything's nice. Union chanting, passion loud and raw, city of grit, we break every law. Down, drunk on broad, no we don't sleep. City of champions, running deep. For another round, let's make it loud. Feel it forever. We're Broad Street proud. Drunk on Broad, yeah we're home. Drunk on Broad.
Oh, good morning, Eric. It's Tuesday, and it doesn't matter because we're both on a little summer break from teaching, so it's a good time to be talking Phillies. I know that the result last night wasn't exactly what we thought it might be, but we can talk all about Aaron Nola and his struggles. But really impressive run from this Phillies team to now as it sits on at the end of June, as we wrap up this month and start heading into the heat of the summer in these next couple of days. This team's 3.5 games out and playing really well, getting contributions from a lot of guys in the lineup. Talk to me about where you are with this team. There's a lot to like. There's a lot of Kyle Schwarber home runs. Harper having a good resurgence. Marsh in the thralls of being at the top of the All-Star votes. You've got one of the most amazing plays from Derek Hill that I think I've ever seen since Aaron Rohn smashed his face into the fence. Just a lot to like about where this team is right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's, if you go back to one of our first shows of the season, I think the tone has certainly changed. I think we even said, later on in the season, we hope it changes just because of, how abysmal the start was to where they're at right now. I mean, the fact that they went from 9-19 and now are just 3.5 games out of the division, and the timing's working out well. They're hot, and Atlanta's kind of hitting that skid. Every team goes through it, so it was kind of just a matter of time before Atlanta eventually, just to stop winning games constantly. But yeah, this team's been a lot of fun. You're getting contributions from a lot of different areas. There are still some pretty glaring weaknesses though that are a little bit scary. That I think need to be addressed by the time we get to closer to October or any meaningful postseason run here. But it's giving the production we're getting from a lot of different guys in the lineup, the stuff we're seeing from guys like Zach Wheeler and Yohan Duran and even Orion Kirkring has been really overall positive. So the Phillies are in a great spot right now, especially as we kind of get into the All-Star break and as we enter July pretty soon. Kind of figuring out what need to be addressed at the deadline.
Yeah, it's been I think. To me, obviously the top half of the rotation, the production that you're getting from Wheeler and Sanchez, and even Luzardo. I can't remember the stat, but the stat when they're starting is staggering about how successful the team is. Really disappointing news about Andrew Painter, right? Being having him have to go down to AAA and kind of figure that stuff out. And the contract and the production from Aaron Nola is something to. I don't know how you resolve that issue because it feels like we traded one Taiwan Walker for the other.
Yeah, it's really I think one of the most disappointing things about the whole situation. I mean, I was always a huge Nola supporter. I felt like he got a lot of unfair criticism for what he did, pre new contract.
Yeah,
And I don't know if it's just like the innings before that are catching up to him or what, but it's getting to the point now where you're hoping he can go 5 innings and give up 3 runs or
yeah,
something like that. And yeah, it's really disappointing to see because I think if you look back on where he stands, where he's going to stand in a lot of franchise categories, stat categories, right? He's going to be near the top, but I think the way he's going to be remembered because of how this the second contract is kind of panning out is going to be really unfortunate. Just because I think he had some really good seasons.
yeah,
He was really reliable when it came to innings, and now it's just like all of that is kind of going away. Starting last year with the injury, he didn't have the innings. This year, I really felt that he was kind of due for a bounce back, considering he threw less than 100 innings last year. But it just hasn't really come to fruition. And every time he has a good outing, it's like maybe he's figured it out. I feel like the next one he goes out and takes 2 steps back. So, obviously the Painter news was bad, the fact that didn't pan out. And now you kind of have a potential other hole in the rotation, which, now you have 3 guys at the top who you could trust with the ball pretty much every time out.
yeah.
But then you have those 2 other spots in the rotation where it's like, the bullpen is going to start getting taxed a little bit. And that doesn't bode well for the future necessarily either.
Yeah, and I mean, Eric, when when you take a look at the contract, it doesn't make you feel any better, right? He signed through
Four years left, I think.
2031. He signed.
Yeah,
He
we got
has
some time.
that. It's like I just there's no signs that it's progressively getting any better.
No.
So it's like I just don't know what you do and how you do it. But that being said, there's way more good stuff to talk about. The video that I sent you the other night, Kyle Schwarber gets the 30 home runs. Bryce last night gets the 20.
Mhm.
Um, the thing that I love about both of them is that they don't ever give you a cheap one.
No.
Like the Schwarber ones, when you watch that compilation of the 30 home runs from this season, every one of them feels like they're absolutely crushed. Like he has the game the other night where he hits two out of the 3 into what felt like the third deck. He just crushes the ball, and the fact that and I know it's positionally, but where he falls in the All-Star voting is like he's going to have to be a manager's choice. Like it's wild.
Yeah, it really is. And, not obviously not taking anything away from Otani, but like you look at their numbers and Schwarber's blowing him out of the water right now in basically every category except for batting average. And Otani, when you have a fan vote, okay, Otani's the face of Major League Baseball right now, so
Yeah,
it's almost impossible. Like Schwarber's in an almost impossible situation ever get that fan vote and that start. But man, what he's done since coming to the Phillies is really just incredible. Like how often do we actually see a guy come to the Phillies and get progressively better? Like I mean, it's pretty few and far between.
better than advertised, right?
Yeah, and I mean his first season, the power was there, but I think he hit sub 200. Every year since then, it's like, yeah, the strikeouts are going to be there, but the power numbers from this guy are just insane. Like last year, he had what 50? It was just shy. It was 56 home runs, I think he had last year, right? Because it was just shy of Howard. And it's like, okay, well, you figure if he hits 48 to 50, that'll be an impressive season. The dude might hit more than that this year. Like,
Yeah,
when he gets a hold of a ball, it's just so impressive. I think Harper's having a better season, especially
yeah.
now. You have Marsh who's hitting behind him a lot more frequently, so you can't necessarily just pitch around Harper every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like having Harper hitting behind Schwarber gives him all that protection. It's just like Schwarber and Harper right now have been kind of the pulse of this lineup, and I feel like every game it's like one of them is doing something,
Yeah.
pretty impressive. And you mentioned Harper doesn't hit cheapies either. Like
No.
his swing is so violent. It's like when he tags one, it's gone. So they've been fun. It's great having those two guys having 30 and 20 already. Because I know over the offseason, one of the points we had made was the lack of power from this lineup.
Right.
And you're still not getting it from a ton of other places. Marsh is at 14 now, which
Yeah.
is if you told me that he would have been
Yeah.
at 14 for the whole season, I would have been happy.
For
And
sure.
he's at 14 before the All-Star break. So the power coming through has been really good. And we're starting to see contributions from other guys too, right? Like, yeah, you're not going to see those mammoth tank shots. But he still does it. He still does it with the double plays. But Bohm has been hitting the ball better.
Yeah.
I do have I'm throwing him a compliment, but I also have to say, what game was it? Was it Friday night? I think it was Friday night. Uh,
3.
Three, yeah, and one of them was actually not his fault. And I gave him the benefit of the doubt. He lines into that hard double play at first base. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
New York.
right. Your guy breaks off first. Okay, that's fair. Boom, can't do anything about it. And then what does he do? Goes and grounds into 2 weak double plays after that. I'm like, I try to give the guy a break, and he just keeps coming back and doing it. But
It's so hard because it's like
yeah,
I think the thing that I struggle with some of those guys is just the consistency, right? Like they're
mhm,
just not they have these moments where like you look at the back of the baseball card and things don't look nearly as bad as they look when you watch them game to game. And
mhm,
that's where it's like, all right, that's where you got to like use your eyeballs. You can't really just
yeah.
look at the box scores because I mean his ability to be able to ground out into double plays is like as efficient as I've ever seen anyone be able to do something. It's wild.
I'm pretty sure his like if you were to take, I would actually be curious to do this. I'm not good enough at going back and looking at stats or math with this, but I am pretty sure if you were to look up his like in a situation where a double play is possible, right, with a runner on base and
Oh,
less than 2 outs, his average of grounding a double play, I would be willing to bet is higher than his batting average or on base percentage at certain points in the season. Like, I'm really
wow.
curious to see how that would work out. I mean, obviously, I'm exaggerating. That
No,
can't be
like
possible, right? But like,
here's the
it
thing.
feels like it could be,
It sounds like something you would exaggerate about,
but it might not be.
but and again, how you formulate the like I'm sure there's a way to create a formula to be able to find that calculation, but like
Mhm.
it wouldn't surprise me. And that's the craziest thing is like it doesn't surprise me that that could be a thing. Um, you're getting lately you're getting production from Trey Turner. You're getting some production from Bryson Stott. Even Real Muto last night. Like you're getting these intermittent waves of production. But I really like the way that the lineup is kind of playing. And again, right, you're playing. They're playing really well. They've made up. What were they at one point to be 10 games under 500 in to now be 10 games over with not even hitting the All-Star break yet is a really a testament to these guys committing to playing really well and they're playing together. And I think you see the more that you see that production up and down the lineup, the more that you're seeing the consistency throughout these game from game to game. And it's obviously last night is a little frustrating. And I think right to have that one inning where Noel gives up what was it 6 in the third? Was it 6 in the third? Like it's it you had all the momentum going into that inning, right? Like you put 5 on the board early, and you put yourself in a position to then have to like battle back, and then you battle back, and then you give up the 3-run home run late, and it just kind of puts it out of reach. And the frustrating part about that, Eric, is like you had done what you had to do to turn the lineup over to get Harper and Schwarber another at bat. And it's like you just needed them to just hold on for that one inning. And I think about it now and I'm like, I almost wouldn't have hated to bring Duran in. And I know it's a game that's like it's not a safe situation. It's the middle of the season, right before the All-Star break, but like it it would have given you the chance to carry that momentum that you had established throughout these last couple seasons, right? Or the last couple series, coming off the series in Washington, which we can talk about now, which was crazy. Some of the craziest four games that I think I've watched. And then to have the series against the Mets in which you play well, and I don't know, it just, part of me felt like maybe bringing Duran in there to kind of like secure the ability to be able to get those guys to the plate in a meaningful at bat.
Yeah, I think that kind of highlights one of the other issues with the team right now is lack of reliable bullpen arms, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
going into the season, this is another one that I thought was really going to not be as much of an issue. But right now, outside of Kerkering and Duran, there's a lot of, I think, you know, guys that are they could have some good outings, but then you're also going to have guys that just make you sweat through an entire inning.
Yeah.
And obviously Keller being out doesn't really help things.
Right.
So you're down an arm there. But yeah, it's like, and Kerkering has been used a lot, right? He pitched the day before, so obviously they weren't going to go to him last night. But you're right. I mean, it really killed the momentum because my wife and I are sitting there watching the game, and it's the bottom of the eighth. They end up getting it back to one run, and I say to myself, perfect. Like, we got the top of the lineup coming up in a one-run game.
Right.
Jay Sugar comes in. I'm like, he was good in the beginning. I feel like his last 2 or 3 outings have been absolutely abysmal, though. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm wondering when, like a late inning thing probably shouldn't. He should not be in a late inning.
Late inning, high leverage, right? Like,
yeah, that just shouldn't have happened. But I think it's a testament to show that there's not a ton of guys down there that are
right.
really trustworthy. And yeah, it's like and again, you're going to have a taxed bullpen because these guys are throwing way more innings because you have the Allen Rod Hill games where he's only going to go, he's kind of coming in bulk relief basically. And then Nola, you want to try to go 6 innings. He's just not doing it. So it's a situation that is, I could really come back and bite this team in the butt a couple more times if they don't find the thing is, there's some guys in the minors right now. Alex McFarland is a guy who has just been absolutely tearing it up at Reading. And I think his stuff is probably ready to play in the big leagues. And I don't know, like, what the hesitation is to bring him up. I don't know if it is potentially for, like, hey, if we bring him up and he gets shelled, is that going to hurt his trade value come, late July, early August?
Yeah.
Or is there another reason they're just not bringing up? I don't know. But, like, you need to bring up guys who are just have the stuff to get people out because you can't just rely on 2 guys going forward.
Yeah. Listen, I'm with you because I don't know that you have the farm system to be able to go out and make, and we can talk about this later, but like when we talk about like guys that they could potentially add at the trade deadline, but like they just don't have the ammunition. And this is like something that's like, you could go back and listen to a couple old episodes and kind of hear the same conversation. They just don't have the ammunition to be able to go and get a Mason Miller or an Aroldis Chapman, or like you're gonna be shopping in like the bargain bin of guys that like you're really gonna have to use some of your like MLB internal scouting to be able to kind of find a diamond in the rough kind of player. I heard Jim Salisbury talking about the deal that they made a couple years ago with remember when they moved on Spencer Howard and they got back like 2 vets, and I can't remember
right.
It was a position.
I was actually just looking at this the other day. Oh, I can't think of who it was off the top of my head.
But they make this move while you're looking, like they make that move and they go right and they get 2 vet guys that make contributions. One was in the field, one was in the bullpen, and like they're gonna have to make moves like that, like Taylor Ward. Say again.
Kyle Gibson and Ian Kennedy were the returns for the Spencer Howard trade. So 2 vets, yep.
Right, like that's the area that they're shopping in, right? Because they don't have the top end of the farm system, right? Andrew Painter, the as far as him being an asset is probably you'd be dumping him at his lowest right
Not
now
worth it. Yeah.
and get almost no value. And Aiden Miller is probably almost untradeable because they don't want to move off of him because they don't want to move off of a guy that could potentially have some talent. But like he also, because of his injury and not playing all year, doesn't have really any value. Like it's hard to gauge what his value might be and what other teams are not going to be willing to give up anything, let alone somebody that's going to contribute to your major league roster. So it's like, so what do you do? Like you're going to have to resort to the guys that you have internally, maybe guys that are young. And I know Gage Wood is a guy that like I think this is a guy that like in my mind you stash and you kind of let him pitch his 2 to 3 innings in the minors and be able to like, and then in September you bring him up, you add him to your bullpen, and like you're going to have to make internal moves like that because you don't have the ammunition to be able to go and get what you have to get.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head there. It's like what they're going to have to look for is value over pedigree, I think, right? Like you're going to have to look at who can come in and who can be that stopgap for the rest of the season. So you're looking at hoping you can make a trade for a bat that works out like Harrison Bader did, right? Maybe he doesn't have the best career numbers, but plays well for the 2 or 3 months that he's in Philadelphia. Pitchers, right? Start from the starting rotation. I think you're looking at probably trying to have to hope you hit on a guy. Obviously not Michael Lorenzen, but Lorenzen pitched okay when he was here in that role. You're not going to get like Scooble's not going to be a guy that Philadelphia is able to really target right at the deadline. They're not going to be able to go out and get a top of the rotation starter, and they don't really need one, right? They need someone who can come in and help eat innings to stop taxing this bullpen, right? So you're going to have to look at a guy like, getting like a Michael Lorenzen type. From a relief standpoint, yeah, you're going to have to take someone who hopefully can throw hard, and maybe you can get just get a few meaningful outings from because you got to figure Keller's going to come back. I forgot about Jonathan Bolin. We were talking about pitchers you
Right.
can rely on. I like Bolin. So there, when Keller comes back, there's four. So adding one more arm there, I think could be helpful. So I think you're basically looking at mid-level everything, right? You're not like, and the thing is like, I think every trade deadline, it's like, oh, when are they going to make that big splash? Well, they can't. Like they can't do it, and it's even more impossible now. Like Duran is that big splash, right? He's probably going to be the only big splash we're going to see. Probably for the next few years, because now you lose prospects that you can trade like Painter and Crawford. Miller's hurt. And then you have a lot of guys who are kind of unproven out there. So their teams are going to be looking at who has upside. That's why I think guys like Alex McFarland and some of those guys and even some of the guys they drafted last year in the lower minors are the only ones really with much value. But with that, you're not going to go out and get top of the line bats or top of the line arms. You're going to have to go and hope you can get value in what's available.
Yeah, and coming off like the World Baseball Classic, right? If you were going to sell on Dante Nori, the time to sell would have been coming right out of that the WBC because his value could not have been higher. And we've seen him kind of come back to earth throughout the season. So like when you're talking about like not just him, but like a package of guys like him. So like you're shopping in like the Taylor Wards of the world.
Yep.
Like I think getting Hill like for essentially nothing could not have worked out any better. I mean, he's already in this short stretch already contributed enough to win you a couple of games, which is crazy, even in coming in the middle of the game as a late inning substitution. But Taylor Ward to me is an intriguing guy, right? A guy who's like not lighting the world on fire, but a guy who can come in and contribute from the right hand side of the batter's box, which is a spot that really it's been such an enigma for them because they haven't been able to get that right-handed bat for, it seems like, since Harper's been here. And he's he's batting 253, 5 home runs, 22 RBIs. Like, maybe he's a guy who needs a change of scenery. He's been productive in the past. And a guy that, like, if you were going to bring in a guy like that, where would he slot in the lineup for you?
Um, I think he would be really good. Like to split up some of those lefties. Like I think he would be great in like putting him in like the 6-6 hole or something like that. If you could get like if you could do Turner, Schwarber, Harper. The thing is when you do that, you have and then you put Marsh there. You have 3 lefties in a row, right? So it's not ideal. So maybe then you go Bohm 4, Marsh 5, Ward 6. I think that could work out okay because then you have potential pop really from everyone except for your cleanup hitter from 2 down to 6, except for Bohm. I mean, could they put him at 4? I think so. He's probably actually better. He's probably better from a power perspective than Bohm. And actually, now that I'm talking through it, I think I'd actually rather him at 4 and then put Bohm at 6. I think that takes the pressure off of Bohm. And it's another guy who, maybe he might not, he might only hit, in the 250s, might not have, 40 home run power potential. But, if you leave one hanging, he's going to make you pay for it. Whereas, Bohm's not going to. So I think I would go Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Ward, Marsh, Bohm, Stott.
Okay.
Down that way.
And just coming off of a trade, like a series of trades that they made a couple years ago when they made 2 different trades with the Angels, right? When they get Marsh and then they traded for Syndergaard. Like a guy like Trevor Rogers, like packaging the 2 of those guys, maybe you don't have to give as much if you package both of them together. Is Trevor Rogers a guy that you'd be interested in terms of like adding to this pitching staff?
I would love that. He started out the season horribly. Like last year, he was a top arm. Like he was so good, and it's funny because he doesn't really, like his stuff is not crazy, but he just knows how to pitch. And then this year, I think April through May, he had like a 6.5, 6 something ERA. But since the beginning of June, he's pitched like a sub 3 ERA. So I am almost wondering because of that how much more his value is going up and how much harder he would be to pry away from Baltimore. But if they could somehow get a Ward and Rogers package, I would say that is an extremely successful trade deadline.
Yeah, and then another trying to like see guys in that same light, right? Like you're also talking about a team in San Francisco that has been struggling a little bit, like a Robbie Ray, Matt Chapman, right? In that same kind of vein, right? Like trying to figure out like how do you package multiple guys together to maybe make what you have to give up a little bit less.
Yeah, that would be fine too. To me, Chapman I don't know if he's as much of an upgrade, but Robbie Ray is obviously beneficial. So like Chapman is going to, he would help, I think. And he's a really good defender. But I think in that one, I would look at like Robbie Ray as almost being like the highlight of that. But there's definitely options out there. And I kind of like the idea of getting 2 from one of these teams that are kind of out of it because there are definitely some options out there. It's just, I just know how competitive the trade deadline is and how many teams have a better farm system than the Phillies. And the Phillies are just so far behind the 8 ball with that, which is really going to make pulling off a really meaningful trade, I think, really difficult.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, listen, they've dug themselves out of this hole, right? I'm looking at like they're 38-19 since Mattingly took over. Like they're playing really well. But when you look at what we were texting back and forth, like the fact that they don't play Atlanta now until September, which is like wild to go that far in between playing a divisional opponent, right? But also it will make it'll make those games significantly more meaningful down the stretch.
Mhm.
But like when you look at that series of games in Washington, talk to me about that experience from day to day to day, right? Like to have the back to back to back in 3 consecutive games in the ninth inning, 2 of those when you're coming down to your last strike. Um, talk to me about those games.
I think they highlighted why, to me anyway, obviously people can disagree with this, but why to me baseball is the best sport. Because
Mm-hmm.
you're there's no clock telling you when the game is over, right? The other team needs to get 27 outs, and you're in it until that last point. And I think we had 3 games in a row that really spotlighted that. And it may have been off the worst bullpen in in baseball history, but when we've talked about this with other things, like you have to take care of bad teams, and I don't think Washington's a bad team necessarily,
Mm-mm.
but that particular aspect of their team, their relief corps, is abysmally bad. And
Eric,
the Phillies,
if you took they've blown what 24 leads,
I think it was 23 or 24. Yeah.
right? If you took half of that, they'd be in first place.
Yep. I was actually just talking to someone about that on Sunday. We were just discussing that how where Washington would be if they didn't do that. Yep.
Like it is wild, right? And when you look at like the contributions that you had late, right? You have the one where Harper takes the lead with the home run. You have the one where they put up what 8 in the inning,
Mm-hmm.
like eight runs with 2 outs, and like not just with home runs, right? Like base hits, like playing like solid baseball where you're going like you're playing station to station. Like it really highlighted that, like, again, that idea of taking care of bad teams, but also like that it seemed like this you could look back at this particular series later on in the season and say like this series was a catalyst for them because it gave them the mindset that they're always in the game, no matter how many they're down, no matter how far down they are.
Yeah, totally agree. And that was something I was thinking during those games, right? Like in the beginning of the season, if they were, I think we talked about this probably in one of the April shows or so. If they were down a run in the 7th inning, I'm like, they're done, right? Like you might as
Turn it
well put a
off.
fork in them, like it's over. That reminded me so much of like 2022, like where that you can't write this team out because there's the potential is there for them to always make a comeback, and that's really what I want. Right, you're going to lose
Mhm.
games, right? It's going to happen. Sometimes you're going to fall short, like they did last night, but they showed fight, right? Like they came out of the gates hot, pitching kind of screwed them up there a little bit, and they didn't back down. They weren't like, oh, well, we're down. How many runs now? We're just going to give up. They brought it right back, and then pitching screwed them again. But at least they were, the fight is there, and at least I think to me, it's like as a fan, the confidence is there. They come
Mhm.
back, but I think it's also big for the players too, like being like, okay, we're not just going to get bullied once we're down, 2 or 3 runs here. That they are able to like string together some at bats now, and some of them have been like really good at bats. I know we've the one knock on this team sometimes is their approach when they're not going well, right? Just swinging at everything, chasing pitches out of the zone. But like they put together some really high quality at bats during those 9th inning comebacks when they were facing Washington. So that instilled a lot of confidence in me. And momentum is such a big thing in baseball, and getting that going
Yep.
heading into the All-Star break, I think will be huge heading into the second half.
Right, and then you couple that with they take care of Washington, right, and then they go up and they play in New York, and Kyle Schwarber has a stretch of 5 at bats against the Mets that resulted in 1,690 feet worth of home runs. Like it was, and to look at I'm looking at a stat from Scott Lauber, right? The exit velocities on those 5 balls: 105, 103, 108, 111, 109.
111. Holy crap,
It's
that's
crazy.
insane.
right?
It is.
And to go back to something we were talking about with Schwarber and Harburg, right? There, Schwarber's on a pace for 61. So like it's just, again, to see the way that they are contributing from kind of passing the baton. I see a lot more of like patient at bats. I saw a little bit of that last night in the Pirates game where the I can't remember, that Rodriguez was the guy that they brought in the eighth,
Yes.
right? And he was all over the place.
He was all over the
And
place.
I saw a lot of that in seeing how patient they were with the at bats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that allowed them the ability to be able to get back into the game. Um, and unfortunately, right, it falls short with Crawford with the strikeout. Um, but I look at that and I saw a lot of patient at bats, right? I saw them kind of let let Rodriguez get real deep in counts, and make them throw strikes, which gave them the opportunity to get that window open, to be able to get back in the game. Um, all of it all contributes to how well this team's playing right now.
Yeah, exactly. They're playing well. I rolled my eyes when you were talking about the Crawford, the Crawford at bat. So he's a rookie.
Yeah,
I'm definitely cutting him some slack. But can someone tell him to stop challenging pitches? Now I know the last one was like the last, like it was an important pitch. Like, okay, you have one left, but he is abysmally bad at challenging pitches. Like that
yeah,
at bat, there was actually another pitch that was called a strike that he should have used that challenge on. But he
yeah,
didn't say, he's like, well, I struck out. Let me try it. It's like, okay, you tried it. I guess they still had one left. So like it wasn't the end of the world because then you still had one left for the top of the lineup coming back through. But I feel like just in the last week, I've said either to myself or someone I'm watching the game with, they need to tell Justin Crawford to stop
just yeah,
Stop challenging. Stop challenging. You don't know the strike zone well enough, or that, or like he's panicking when he strikes out or gets a bad call or gets a call in a bad
yeah.
situation. Again, that's my little tangent on Justin Crawford. I'm
No,
still going to give him some time,
Eric, I
but
think especially with the guys that are coming up right behind him,
exactly.
right? Like you've got guys like Turner, Harper, and Schwarber, which are guys that know the strike zone significantly better.
Yeah,
And I would trust way more. And those are the guys that you want to have the opportunities to have those extra pitches. Not you, who could challenge that pitch and hypothetically challenge that pitch and win, but then strike out on the next pitch.
right.
Like you're not at that point in your career where your at bats are not competitive enough to be able to utilize that properly, especially at
Yeah,
that point in the game, right? Like you're talking about a one-run game in at the time a one-run game, right? But like you want Turner, Schwarber, Harper to have those opportunities to be able to challenge those pitches late in the ninth, hypothetically, right? It turns out that like they end up giving up the 3-run home run and the game gets out of hand, but like you
you don't know that in the moment, right? Like
you
you
don't
don't know in the
in
moment.
the moment it's a one-run game and those guys are coming up behind you. That's one that like unfortunately like you got to eat that one and you got
Hmm.
to be able to be like I got to be more I got to get better at knowing the strike zone because you can't take that second chance opportunity now that that is a part of the game. You can't take that away from guys that are at the top of your lineup that are going to be significantly better at assessing that. And you want them to have the opportunity to be able to challenge those pitches in the eighth or the ninth or the, coming up in the bottom of the ninth, in what was a one-run game with two guys that can, or two, I'll say two guys that have the ability to be able to tie the game with one swing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because I think Turner has also had some really bad challenges this year too. But
Mm-hmm.
he's I will say, I know you mentioned it earlier, for how bad he was in the beginning of the year, and really I would say for the first like 3 months of the season, the last like 2 weeks, Turner's been kind of heating up a little bit, which has been a huge catalyst for the top of that lineup. So
Yeah, and let's talk about the pitching a little bit, because when you talk about the top end of this rotation, right, and then you talk about the back end, it's the middle that's a little funky. But like Duran has been incredible. I know you touched on him earlier, right? And then the efficiency and the production that you're getting from Christopher Sanchez and Zach Wheeler gives me a lot of hope that in a playoff series that's short, that you have the firepower to be able to kind of go up against what probably will be either the Brewers or the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think you look at those two, and I mean, I don't. They're as good as any 1-2 punch in the game right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and especially with we kind of knew what Sanchez was going to be coming in, right? Like he's just been getting better and better every season. Wheeler, though, I think the whole thoracic outlet syndrome thing was probably a little scary. I know, at least for me, it was, especially hearing some of the rehab starts, like his velocity was down and everything.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, like he didn't say this, but basically he was showing like I was just trying to get healthy. Like I wasn't really actually like trying down there because he came back his first start in the major leagues again. The guy's pitching like he didn't miss a beat. Just how incredibly good he has been since he's come to Philadelphia. Him and Schwarber, I think you look at as probably the two best signings in two of the top 5 best signings in like franchise history, probably. Just how good those two have been. And then Luzardo, it's funny because Luzardo has potential to be so good, and he shows that certain games. But it wasn't his Sunday. He pitched pretty well. It was a start before that, so it was some game last week. I forget exactly which one it was. But he gives up 5 earned runs, but still strikes out. I think like 13 or 12 or yeah. So I'm like, the stuff is definitely there. So like, I am not really worried about Luzardo, even if he does have a game where he gives up some runs, just because he does have such good stuff. So I really like that 1, 2, and 3 in this rotation for a short playoff series. I get nervous now going into one of those 7-game series because we talked about this last time, right? How the Dodgers were able to just keep throwing out starter after starter out of the bullpen because what was their weakness? The bullpen. And now it's like the Phillies barely have enough right now to man the rotation, let alone use any extra guys for relief, which I think kind of goes back to what we already talked about.
Yeah,
they need to add something.
And like right now, like you're talking like Christopher Sanchez is third in Major League Baseball with 127 strikeouts, only behind Mizorowski and Dylan Cease. Which, but then you look at Luzardo, and Luzardo's number 6 at 116, right? So like you're getting really, really good quality starts. Like the fact that he has that outing the other night and still strikes out 13 is absolutely wild. But it makes me feel good that like, okay, get me to the playoffs, and then hopefully your bats don't fall asleep. But part of what happened, I think, last year in the playoffs in that series against the Dodgers is like you also went up against an insane pitching staff, right? Starter after reliever after starter turn reliever. Like there was just never a break. Mm-hmm. So you didn't really ever have the opportunity to really get the bats going, and they were still in that series. And that's the thing that I keep. It's the thing that I keep going back to say like, okay, there could be opportunities there to be able to have those conversations about talking yourself into their ability to be able to, go toe to toe with one of those teams. And like, if you do get matched up, like you have a 1, 2, and 3 starter, especially in that first round when it's a short series, like you can like, and baseball's weird, right? Like we've seen the teams in the past, right? I know it's kind of not fun to talk about, but like that Phillies team that lost to the Cardinals 1-0, right? That team was probably the best out of all of those teams to go on any of those runs. And they go out to a Cardinals team in the first round in a game where they don't score any runs and they lose 1-0 on what ended up being a super fluky play in the first inning. Like baseball can be weird like that. So like
Yep.
I think they've done, considering how the regular season started, they've done what they need to do to put themselves in a position to be in that conversation, right? So now they're out of that really funky start. They're back in within three, as of today, within 3.5 games of the division lead. I think getting, if like, all your efforts have to be on winning the division, because the road through the playoffs as a division winner is significantly easier than as a wild card. But just getting in the playoffs, I think, is they've done what they need to do to be able to get to that point. So it's like, all right, so what do we do now? Right? Like now they've got, even where they are, still a lot of stuff to figure out.
Yeah, and that just shows how hard it is to really to win a playoff series, because
Mm-hmm.
right now this team has shown, okay, yeah, they have a lot of pieces, but like you said, it could take one fluky play. You look at how the series ended, right? With last year, the fluky play with Kirkland throwing the ball over Romuto's head, like that he throws the first base there, that game still continues, and who knows how it ends. Like anything can happen.
Sure.
And what I really want to see is I want to see this team go into October hot, not just like complacent because they already clinched the playoffs. Like and I think hopefully, like, being in a battle with Atlanta all the way down and clinching on like the last day or second last day. Yeah, you don't get really a chance to rest any of your guys. But I'm of the mindset I think momentum's more important in that case. Obviously, you need health, but I think in a playoff series, you just need things to go your way, and just putting the ball in play. Like last series, there were certain games where they just were not touching Yamamoto. They were not touching Glasnow. Like, you have to be able to put the ball in play, and you need to just make things happen that way.
Yeah, and oh god, Eric, like, to the one really bright spot for us is to see how futile the Mets are. It's really, really good to be in a position to kind of see the Mets be insanely futile, and be at this point 15 and a half games back, and not even in a conversation, considering what they were doing this offseason, right? And I saw Corey Seidman did a side-by-side of Bichette and Bohm, and this was on June 19th, and the numbers are like almost identical.
That's hilarious.
And to see, and that, like, he has the opt-in for next year, which, like, having a year like he's eight home runs, 42 RBIs, batting 250. That opt-in, that player option is going to kick in for them, and they're going to be obligated to pay and commit all of that money to him again. It's like I look at how futile they are, and it does feel pretty good. And the play with Juan Soto the other night was the cherry on top.
There were three Mets things I was just going to hit on real quick. One was that play with Juan Soto, who just I know he's one of the best players in baseball right now, and I know I'm only seeing this because these are like insanely bad highlights, and I know 9 times out of 10 he's a very good player.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think, like, he can be so lackadaisical in the field and on the base pass, and it's like the amount of money he's making, I just feel like he can get so lazy about it. Speaking of Juan Soto, I don't know if you saw this. It was, what podcast was it on? It was Eric Chavez, who was a third base coach for the Mets at one point.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking, and I don't know if you saw it. I just saw it this morning. I figured I would bring it up today. So apparently what Soto used to do was, he after he'd come in when the Mets were, batting and he was not up, he would just go chill on a couch in the clubhouse, not be up with the teammates or anything like that. And some guys used to say, like, to David Stearns and some of the other, front office people, you should really get him back out here with the rest of his teammates. There's a lot of young guys in his team. It's kind of a bad look, and it's what's it teaching them. And David Stern's response was, well, those younger guys have to learn they're not Juan Soto. What culture are they building there? Like, again, it's not Little League. Like, you don't need to be in the top steps, like, doing different chants and everything the whole way out there. But, like, When
Right.
you're getting paid that money to be the face of your franchise, and
Yeah.
you don't even seem interested enough to care when your team's hitting. No, it's one thing if he was going down there and hitting, or getting some to eat or using the bathroom. That's one thing, but
Right. Right.
he's
Right.
literally just going down and like chilling on a couch in there. Like
Yeah.
to me, that kind of stood out a lot. And I also saw today that this is the quickest the Mets have lost 50 games in a season in the last 30 years. So it's and for the payroll that they have, they're either the first or second highest payroll in baseball. I forget if it's them or the Dodgers right now. But it's just like in the beginning, I'm like, oh, maybe they're just off to a bad start, like the Phillies. And I just think it's like and the player, it's not even like a flawed necessarily because they have some talent on that team.
Hmm.
It's the construction of that roster though.
Yeah.
So they lose Nimmo, they lose McNeil, and they lose Alonso. Right, Alonso, obviously, arguably the biggest piece there.
Yeah.
And who do they sign to play first base for them? Jorge Polanco, who has I don't even know what's his deal right now. Like he hasn't even been playing. Is he hurt? I genuinely don't know. The dude wasn't a first baseman. What did you think you were
Yeah.
like replacing there? So it's just I love it because it's our division rival. But
For sure.
I actually do. I actually at one point yesterday when I saw that Juan Soto play had like a slight. It was fleeting, but a slight. I guess. Feeling of sympathy toward Mets fans because what the front office and ownership is doing there, it's like you can throw out all the money in the world you want, but roster construction and chemistry and culture have so much to do with it, and they have none of that right now.
It's so funny.
Love
It's so funny, and it's so good to know that they're not only are they out, but they're this far out this early in the season. Yeah, it's just good. All right, before we jump out of here, Eric, trade deadline is a little bit later in the summer this year. Some big names on the market, right? The guy at the top of the list is Tariq Skubal. Um, what's your what's your prediction? What do you think is going to happen in that spot?
I can. The Tigers are kind of in limbo. He's gone. It's just going to be the highest bidder, I think. And I really thought it was going to be between two teams. The two teams we were just talking about with the two highest payrolls, and also the ones probably with enough prospect depth to get him. But I can't see the Mets going out and getting a half-year rental from a guy unless they have a deal in place where he's willing to sign there long term.
Yeah,
So unfortunately, I think people are going to be, and it's going to kind of reignite the whole thing with and hate for the Dodgers. But I don't see him going anywhere else. I mean, maybe the Yankees surprise us and
yeah,
pull him in, but I think it's really going to be LA or the Yankees. Like we said, the Phillies just don't have the prospect capital or
yeah,
the payroll flexibility to do it. The Yankees could definitely use some pitching help. The Dodgers have all the money in the world they could want, and they have the prospect capital to get him.
yeah,
So I hate saying it, but I don't see him going somewhere else. It's like getting that predictable, I feel like.
yeah. And at this point, for me, it's like anybody but the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't mind him staying in the American League, um, and you know, it to me it would at least keep things semi balanced. If he goes to the Dodgers, then it's just like it would almost feel like the playoffs were like perfunctory. Like it would
Mm-hmm.
just be like going through the motions because the firepower that they would have is like, I mean, when you talk about when you talk about a rotation with Yamamoto and and Otani and Skubal and like Glass now, like just
We can keep going.
you don't have enough spots. Like they would have to kick guys that are currently in their bullpen out and not be on a playoff roster because they have so many starters. Like it's
Yep.
now I know some of those guys would obviously be part of that Scooble deal, but it would just be really like it would feel like an arms race. I'm going to give you a couple other guys.
Mm-hmm.
Luis Ariz, a guy that we've talked about, a guy that's normally really productive but not having a great year.
he's one of those guys where I could see. Like, are you talking about from like a Phillies standpoint, or just from a around the
Just
league
in
standpoint?
general. I mean, potentially, but like just in general.
Yeah, the thing is he's a guy who I think you can get like relatively cheap, right? Because
Hmm.
he doesn't check a lot of boxes, right? Like you're not getting power from him, but
Right.
you are getting the ability to put the ball in play and a guy who will just get on base for you.
Yeah.
So there's value there, but I also think because he's not racking up like the count categories necessarily,
Yeah.
I think um, he's somewhat gettable. I don't know where he ends up, honestly. Just because he's one of those guys I feel like every team can kind of use a guy like him in a way. I think he's
Yeah.
like he's really like to me kind of a and I don't want to say a boring player, but he doesn't really bring anything else other than the getting on base. But again, it's an important part of roster construction. You
For
need a
sure.
guy who can do it. He can play. He can play a couple different places in the infield. I think he's on the move. I don't know where he goes. I think a lot of teams could be in on a guy like him.
Yeah. And then the two guys in Boston, a guy that we talked about earlier in Chapman, and then Sonny Gray.
Sonny Gray, man, he would be a guy I would love to see the Phillies try to go after. I just don't think they have this stuff to do it.
For sure.
But Chapman, I really think they do, just because he's older. The Red
Mhm.
Sox are no, they did just sweep the Yankees this weekend, but they're
Yeah.
like they're the Mets of the AL right now. Like they're in a bad spot, and just losing games in horrific ways. So I think they are going to have a fire sale. I think Chapman's gone. I could see Sonny Gray going, but again, I don't see the Phillies being the landing spot. Even though I would love for him to come here, I think
Mhm.
that would be like a huge splash. And then from I know he, his kind of production has kind of kept dipping, but Jaron Duran is another name I keep seeing thrown out from
Okay.
Boston, who could be a little package with Chapman maybe, because I think his value is also probably at an all time low.
Hmm.
Chapman's a little bit older, so potentially talking to Boston about those guys. Maybe change of scenery for Duran helps things. So yeah, I could see. I think again, all those guys are on the move, and I think the Phillies are more players for like a Chapman Duran type trade than they would
Gotcha.
be for maybe Chapman Gray. Just I think Gray is going to be cost more of a prospect haul.
Gotcha. Last thing I want to ask you about the All Star game. I know we kind of chatted about it a little bit before. Where do you kind of stand on the guys that could potentially be on the roster for the National League?
So I think we're looking at Wheeler and Sanchez have to make it right. Duran I think has a really good shot of making it. The problem is they don't take that many relievers, which
Right.
makes it a little bit more of an issue because you got to figure Mason Miller is going to make it right.
Yep.
So I think Marsh should absolutely get voted in. And he just like last night again with 2 home runs. Like the guy is just putting on a clinic at the plate right now. So I really hope he gets voted in. I think Schwarber and Harper should both be in his manager choices. Like they're both the only two in the NL. They're the top at least as of I think was it Sunday or yesterday I saw they were the top two OPS
Top two,
leaders
yeah.
in the National League. So like I mean, if the two top OPS leaders don't get in, what does that say about how about this system? So I think, and especially like from a just like what fans want to see is home runs, right?
Right.
Like especially the average like casual fans want to see home runs. You're not going to leave Kyle Schwarber off this All Star roster, so like he
No,
definitely makes it. So I really think the Phillies have a chance of getting 4 or 5 guys in there.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Anything on the way out before we jump out of here?
Don't need to get really into it, but my favorite guy to watch right now, Jacob Mizorowski, threw 105 and a half mile an hour pitch last week.
Highest recorded ever?
And it's funny when you were talking about Schwarber's exit velocities. One of the exit velocities you mentioned was 105. I'm like, and Mizorowski could throw a ball that hard. I'm like that is just crazy.
It's nuts.
Again, I don't want him to start the All Star game. I'd rather be Sanchez or even Wheeler to an extent, just because it's in Philly. But the dude he's fun to watch right now. We'll see how long it lasts because I don't know how an elbow can take that torque.
Yeah.
But
That's always kind of like I think like structurally, I don't know how your elbow and shoulder withstand that amount
No.
of force and velocity pitch after pitch after pitch because it's not just like he dials it up for once. Like
Right.
he's doing it 10, 12, 15, 20 times in a game where he's over 100. It just really he really is just he's probably the guy that like when you're flipping through, it's like he's the guy on YouTube that I'll probably like go and just watch like the highlight package just
Yep, it's
because
totally worth it.
it you're never going to be disappointed. It's really
No,
he is really just fun to watch. So
it is.
yeah, listen, on the way out we'll check in with you over the summer, but we'll go Phils.
Go Phils.